Okay, 4, 3. Welcome to 2-Month Review, a weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which we take one giant book, break it down bit by bit, section by section, talk about it, analyze it, have fun with it, talk about all sorts of other things. This season, we are going over Duck's Newburyport by Lucy Ellman. Today, we'll be talking up through page 360. I am Chad Post from Open Letter Books, and I'm joined as always by Brian Wood of Joytime Killbacks, author of Joytime Killbacks.
Hi, Chad. Thank you. Great, doing a great job, man. Keep up the good work.
This is the second time recording because my computer went crazy and started kicking me out and muting me. And a special guest this week is Lori Feathers from Interabang Books in Dallas, Texas. How are you doing, Lori?
Good, thank you.
And so let's go right into like the important stuff. Do you want to tell everyone that hasn't heard what happened to your store?
Yeah, so last Sunday night, around 10 o'clock in the evening, while everyone was in Dallas, was tucked away watching the Dallas Cowboys game, a tornado blew through Dallas and was a direct hit of my store and the shopping center that the store is located in. The entire store is gone, direct loss. The tornado ripped off the roof and then the sprinkler system came on. So we've got a lot of wood pulp and paper pulp in my store because our 5,000 square foot store, which had, I guess, probably about 18,000 books, everything is gone. Fixtures,
oh my goodness,
story, everything.
Unbelievable. I saw those pictures like the next morning. It's just like, it looks like a movie set. Like it doesn't look real. It's like hard to even visualize what the store was out of that array of like things that are broken and hanging down. And how horrible! What a nightmare.
Yeah, there was. What's amazing is that no one in Dallas was killed in this event, and it was very kind of isolated. I guess tornadoes are peculiar that way, that you have one block that's wiped out and another block where everything looks perfectly fine. And so where I live in a high rise close to downtown, and we saw some thunder and lightning and had no idea really that there was any part of the city that was really getting hammered the way it was. But kids are out of school, and there's still some people without power. And now it's, I guess, 15 days, 16 days later. So it's had a big impact.
That's wild. So what are you guys going to do going forward with the store? Do you have any plans?
The good thing about kind of having, kind of book orders that are constantly like looking out to the future, like you do with all the publishers when you meet with them. Immediately on Monday morning, about 7:30 a.m., when I realized how bad it was, once daylight arrived, I called all my publisher reps and said, stop shipments immediately. We have no capacity to receive books right now.
Yeah.
And they did, but they're ready when I say, okay, start them back up again. And so we have found a temporary spot in Dallas where we will be open for at least the next 4 months in this spot, according to the lease, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Right now, it's kind of all cut up with insurance adjusters and our old lessor in the old space has to decide what they want to do with the property and whether they're going to rebuild it and whether they're going to let us out of the lease. So it's with the insurance people and the lawyers right now.
God, that all makes me feel very anxious and stressed out. Like to even wow. I'm glad that you have a new space that you'll be able to be open, and that's really important. And that there's plans to come back. But like, what a horrific weekend. Yeah,
it was. It's going to be a lot of work, kind of getting back to where we were, because I was pretty proud of our backlist.
Yeah.
I buy the adult books for the store, but it's just things, and we'll get it back.
Yeah,
the community's been great, really great. People have been buying on our online store, and the response there has been really good too.
What's the link? What's the link for your online store?
It's interabangbooks.com.
Okay.
and it's Interabang, INTERABANG books.com. There's two ways to spell Interabang. I didn't know that before we started the store, but
yeah. I spelled it. For a long time, I think I might have even tried to email you a couple times, but it was the wrong address because I misspelled it. Like I spelled it this way, and it would just like go nowhere and bounce back. I'm like, oh shit, that's right. Like,
yeah, there's a spelling with 2 R's and an O rather than an R and an A.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Anybody listening, if you have a book you want to get, please go to their website and buy a book from Lori. Go to interabangbooks.com. Help out Dallas there a little bit. But most importantly, did the Cowboys win that night or no? I didn't watch the game.
They did win that night. They did.
So that's fine. Everything's fine then.
I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm from Western Pennsylvania, so I'm all Steelers all the time.
Whoa.
Crap.
I'm not a Cowboys fan either.
But thank goodness, even though I'm not a Cowboys fan, I don't wish any harm on the fans. If that tornado had gone through that stadium because it was a home game, that would have been horrific.
Yeah, that would have been horrific. If a tornado went through that stadium when there was no game going on and no one was working there, I wouldn't mind that. I would be good with fuck Jerry Jones, but if there are people involved, like no, absolutely not. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in the Midwest in Michigan, so tornadoes were like a commonality. Like they'd have tornado drills. There'd be something would hit somewhere nearby, like every season. And I remember distinctly once, like outside the window of our school, a little tornado went down and just like chunked a bunch of trees, like little trees that were outside, just like flipping them to the side, but nothing else was damaged. Like you're saying, it can be so localized, like hyper localized. But oh my God, what a nightmare. Well, I'm just wondering, like silver lining, has there been more like publicity or buzz or talk about the bookstore since it's being rebuilt now, or like the community kind of gathering around?
Yeah, we've had people have offered to let us use their businesses for author signings.
Nice.
I'm moving my in-store book club to the Dallas Institute of Humanities and Culture, who offered to give us space. And we have seen our online sales just really go through the roof, which is really nice. The community is fantastic.
And you're able to fulfill those because they're not going through your store's inventory. So the people can order the books and they'll get them and
right.
you'll get part of the profit. So
right. Our warehouse is sending the books direct to the customers. So
yeah, just make sure that that you can help out and not just like that you will get the book that you order. So everyone listening, please do that. Absolutely. So order what's that? I
said order Duck's Newburyport.
Yeah, absolutely. Beast. Big fat book. So you read this, you're quoted in here, right?
I do have a blurb in this book.
I believe you have the longest blurb for
and they even shortened that blurb to put it in. You can see there's ellipses.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Do you want me? I'm going to read it for anyone who doesn't have
this. This is the longest blurb I've seen in my life. Good Lord, Lori.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
I had a lot to say.
Here's what you said. How fitting that Lucy Ellmann's revelatory and groundbreaking novel Duck's Newburyport is arriving on the centennial of Sherwood Anderson's famous Winesburg, Ohio. Ellmann's modernist masterpiece is primed to be as influential for the future of fiction as Winesburg was in its time. Duck's innovative style works wholly in its favor. The novel is accessible, heartfelt, and absorbing as it portrays the mind of a middle-aged mother who tries to manage the hectic demands of family and household, all the while constantly assailed by her own memories, guilt, and second-guessing. Ellmann's protagonist worries about it all, from gun violence, Trump, and polluted drinking water, to soft-boiling eggs, cleaning behind the refrigerator, and perfecting a lemon drizzle cake recipe. If it sounds quotidian, it is, but it is also brilliant, real, and very much alive. Lori Feathers, Interabang Books. That's great. That is actually, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's a wonderful summation.
That's what it is. You nailed it. But so how did you come to read the book initially, and tell us more about your overall reaction?
I had my eyes on this book well before it was published, and I can't remember how I initially found out about it, but I read a lot of kind of UK book news, and I had heard about this book, I think through one of those sources, whether it was The Guardian or the Irish Times. And I wrote to Galley-Beggar Press, who's the initial publisher of this book in the UK, and said, can I have a galley of this? And they said, we don't have galleys yet. We'll send you one when we do, but we wanted to let you know that it's going to be published in North America by Biblioasis. And so then at Winter Institute last year, Chad, I think I saw you there. The Biblioasis folks were there, and they had galleys. So I read this book. Well, I picked up the book last January and read it soon thereafter.
Yeah, I feel like you were one of the first people I heard talking about it, or started talking about it. You and James Crossley were the two that both got it at Winter Institute and were the first to dive in and start the train going. So how prior to the store's destruction, how is it doing for the store?
It was doing really well because I was hand selling it to a lot of people, and it's not an easy book to hand sell, I'll have to say, because first of all, some people have allergies to anything over 400 pages. I kind of have the opposite. I think I have a little bit of Stockholm syndrome. I love huge books, and I love to get trapped in them and then just kind of like can't get out of them. And I've slugged myself through some really horrible big books that I never want to think about again, but this was not one of them. This was a pleasure to read the whole way through. But yeah, I just kept talking about it. And of course, the fact that it was shortlisted for the Booker, that says more probably than any hand sell that I could do. But
do you think, as a bookseller, is the Booker what is the most important prize to get people to pay attention and buy books in your opinion?
Well, I'm on the board of the National Book Critics Circle, and I'd like to say it's the National Book Critics
You better say that, yeah.
But no, I think it's the NBA. I think it's the National Book Award.
Really? Because I know Tom's always said the Pulitzer and the Booker Prize do more for their sales than the National Book Award does. But
I kind of, I'm more attuned. I think I kind of like the books that are on the Booker list a lot usually, and I seek to read all of the ones that are shortlisted. But yeah, I don't know. I think that little gold NBA seal does a lot for book sales in most stores.
Yeah, that would be yeah. Well, that's good to know. That's good.
It's interesting that if I talk to like a casual reader, like not a real literary citizen, like they'll know the Pulitzer, but if you mention the Booker, they're like, I have no idea what that is, or like maybe National Book Award, they can kind of get guess what that is because it's in the title. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Best Translated Book Award. That one also sells a lot of copies, and it describes.
I'm a particular fan of that one too.
Oh, BTBA. That sounds like a political affiliation. I'm not into that.
True. That's very true.
Can't do that.
It's
a book prize.
It's a total lobbyist group.
Make books America again. What are these foreign books? I don't care about this. Taking away American jobs and American prizes. I don't want this.
Which you say that jokingly, but I don't know if you remember this, but one of the times, and this is a secret for anyone listening to this or listens to this that's in Rochester, I don't care that you know this at this moment in time, but when one time I was on the local NPR show called Connections. That's like the local Rochester, everything NPR cool show with Evan Dawson. And I was going to be on there to talk about books and whatever. And we had people call in questions because it's a call-in show. So I encouraged everyone to call in with the craziest questions that we could, just to see if just to like disrupt the whole radio experience, I guess. And I don't know, because it would be funny. And so one of my interns who's German and is from Germany, he called in with like a thick German accent and said that exact thing where he's like, well, I just want to know why you're publishing books that are international because you're taking away jobs from Americans. And they took it super serious. Like, yeah, that's interesting. How do you respond to that, Chad? And it's just like, oh man, this is a good. I can't believe we got someone on here to call in with such a ridiculous question.
And yeah, if I recall, you answered it straightforward that Well, it's actually it employs more Americans because you have an American translator that's usually going through an American university and affiliated programs.
Yeah,
like you're like some just like BS answer of like just torrenting. Yeah,
totally caught me off guard. But I went with it. You have to play it straight, man. You have to play it straight. Otherwise, they start to catch on to like what games we're playing. Which actually reminds me, this is also a side note, but I don't remember what it is, but Brian's book was one of the finalists for the best book of Rochester. Joytime Killbox was for our local paper, and Brian was the best author. But there was like a bit when they announced the winners and all that, they have like the funniest write-ins where people wrote in like weird stuff to the answers when you first put it in there. And what did somebody call your book? It wasn't Joytime Killbox. It was like Joykill Time Box or Time Box.
Buzzkill Jukebox, or I forget what. It was just, it's like, yeah, that's actually kind of a better title. I should have done that one. What the hell?
Really ridiculous. Anyway,
but do you think that hand selling for a book like Ducks is probably the best way to, or like folks aren't necessarily coming in asking like, can I get that big huge book everybody's talking about?
Some folks had heard about it, before I kind of say this is the best book I read this year. But I would say that you get all kinds of readers that come in. Some are just going to say, no, that's not for me. And I don't know. I know that early on, I don't recall whether it was The Guardian, Irish Times, one reviewer called this a challenging book. And I don't know whether I agree with that necessarily. I think it's a time-consuming book just because of the length and because there's, no paragraph breaks. It's a lot of words. But I kind of think it's a really approachable read because it reads just kind of so stream of conscience, and I don't find it boring. I think that it's got a rhythm to it that you kind of get sucked into, and it kind of propels you along.
Yeah, I actually in class last night, I teach a workshop, and one of the pieces that we were workshopping was stream of consciousness, and I brought this book in and read it to the class to show like how dense and packed it can be, but how beautiful and easy it is to read. Like you're in the hands of a master here. Like, listen to the way this sounds. Listen to how like you have all the footing you need while you're still drifting along, and you're never lost. You never like, it's just, this is done so like you're looking at a master at the height of their power with this book.
Yeah. The one question that I get from people that start it, they say, well, I'm afraid to put it down because there's really no way to more where I'm stopping to like go get my coffee or whatever. And for me, I just put like a little ink mark. I would like dog ear the page. I guess I'm not supposed to do that, but I dog ear pages all the time. And I put a little pen mark because you really can just like pick it up almost at any page. And it's not like you need to remember like, oh, what was happening before I picked this up again.
Yeah, I've noticed. I feel like there's frequently like I'll stop at where it's the top of the page, so flipping, and then I'll stop right at the first comma on the top left, and it feels like a lot of times that's almost like a natural break. Like it starts to switch topics right around there. There's some magical rhythm that I feel like it's easy to find in those places.
For me, I would most often start when she would start going into the music. Like italicized music lyrics and the little notes. And that was like, that always, for me, I don't know why, seemed to be like a natural stopping point.
Yeah, and it's a visual marker because you know where you are. It's not like you have to look for the comma.
And in some ways, it's an exact opposite reading experience where sometimes you're like looking for like, how long till I get to like a paragraph break so I can go to sleep. Like I gotta plow through and finish this chapter or this section. Whereas this one, it's like trying to figure out where to stop, not like when to stop.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I should probably sleep now. I gotta stop. Okay.
Right.
It's true. This section that we're going over today, it was specifically from like 298 or so, 297 up through 360, because there are these breaks too, like the sort of, they're not chapters obviously, but where it interrupts and then it has a story about the mountain lion, and then goes back into her consciousness. So there are sort of markers for people who want to treat it as chapters. But this is one that gets into more of the background of the history of Native Americans in Ohio is like one big theme, and then more about the motherhood and her children again is another one. But I thought that this is the first time that I remember that the book has started to address all of the history of the Native American massacres, which is, again, it seems to be like a powerful setup for more that can, like all the different kind of layers of this book can come together through that as well. But a lot of the stuff in here I don't know about, which makes me feel stupid, and like I don't know my American history of things. But all the I don't even know how to say it, Gad Hunton massacre that took place and that she describes I'd never heard of before in my life. All like the back and forth, the Big Bottom massacre that happened on the one on another place. All these massacres I feel like are, crucial parts of our terrible American history, and yet it's interesting to come across them in this particular way in this particular book, and not I don't know what they are. I didn't know what the Serpent's Mound was.
There's a lot in there about the mounds and the domes, and that was all new to me as well.
Yeah, I looked at the Serpent Mound and it's wild. Like, it's crazy. Have you guys seen it or know what it is?
No.
Okay, so she references it somewhere in here. That the Serpent's Mound is so what it is like it is a raised part of land in the landscape that draws out a serpent, like a snake. And it's like this giant long thing where at some points it's only like a little bit off the ground, at other points it's up to like 3 feet off the ground, but it's designed to look like a snake. And they think that it might have been put together, made, I don't know, constructed in around like the year 1000. And that it's possible that it's related, the way that it's laid out is for both for astrological signs, and for both solstices and for something else. So that, like, they're like, it's very complicated because it puts together a bunch of different astrological things into one mapped out vision. So there's a lot on Wikipedia about it that was like, they don't really know, they're not sure, there's no like artifacts, so they can't date it, like it's just there, but they have like certain suspicions as to why it was put together in the way that it is. But it's like a giant snake in the ground.
It's kind of reminiscent to like Aztec temples with snakes and sun and moon phases, like lunar phases, and but if you want to go on like a really deep dive on it, there's this like weird dude named Graham Hancock that believes that there is an advanced civilization before us.
Oh yeah,
that built the pyramids, and like he's all about pyramids and mounds, and he has like chapters and chapters about like all of his new books now are about Native American mounds in the United States.
Awesome.
So like, he doesn't necessarily believe in aliens, but he believes like in Atlantis and Atlanteans, and they could like travel all over the world and share their like. So if you want to go on like a crazy, wacky deep dive,
I'm down.
Hit up Graham Hancock, and he's really big into hallucinogenics and taking mushrooms and all that kind of stuff too. Of course, yeah. So his latest book is actually on these mounds. So check that out. It'd be like some fun, cool research of like,
I love it.
The hell? Yeah, it's really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, that was that. Yeah, I'm going to, because I think I love that idea. The other one that was in here that I didn't have any idea what it was Steve, the gas thing in the air.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this? Like, this can't possibly be real. I typed in Steve Air and it pops up immediately that there's this like like, I don't even know, like plasma substance, like a line of purple and green that like floats in the air that can be seen at different points from the globe. Like at different points you can see it. It's also very wild. Like all this stuff. Like, I don't know how I mean, I feel like the only person who could write this book that I know of aside from her is like you, Brian, because you always have all these crazy things that you find on like YouTube or elsewhere that you could just mix in here. But there's so much knowledge, like throwaway references. I'm just like, okay, whatever. And they'll look it up and be like, oh my God, this is like a wild natural occurrence.
But
why is it called? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I interviewed her for LitHub, and
you did.
And what is so crazy to me is she has not lived in the United States since 1970.
That's
and
insane.
I feel like she knows so much more about these kind of lesser known arcane things, but then also kind of like our current political climate and like what Midwestern housewives really worry about day to day than I don't know, than almost any other author that's writing right now that's never left this country.
Yeah. Maybe you need that. I mean, it wasn't that the old like Hemingway Fitzgerald thing that you needed to get away from your homeland in order to write about it? Like when they would go into like, living in Paris and left bank, that you couldn't write about America within America. You had to be outside of it to get the proper perspective. There's some famous quote that someone listening will know that's from one of those people that's like that. Or maybe it's Gertrude Stein. Who knows? Whatever. Steve is an acronym. That's why it's Steve.
No, I know, but I just like the idea that that's what like a stoner would name his dog, right? Like, yeah, this is my dog Steve. Like, it can't be like some amazing substance that's in the air. Like, it's so perfect. Oh, Steve, that's just Steve, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I keep getting so intimidated by this book, like as a writer, like thinking about like, oh, how would I have written this, or how would I like the fact that she's an expat that hasn't been here since the 70s and can nail this so perfectly and pitch perfect and with the concrete details that are just so prescient, and like it is so intimidating that there are people out there that are this stinking good.
Yeah.
Like I've got a long way to go.
Have you read any of her other stuff? Any of her previous books?
I'm going to, not yet. This is my first experience with her.
Yeah. Well, you should read, I think her book right before this was a book called Mimi. It takes place in New York City. It's very good. And I read like her first book, which I think was called Sweet Desserts. She's this is her 7th novel. So she's been around for a while.
Yeah, I have a couple. I've gotten The Universe and Man or Mango checked out from the library. But I was hoping to read them before we started this, but I didn't get to them. So now I'm just like, I'll wait till after we're done. It'd be too confusing.
But you can see some of what's developed to become kind of like, I would think this is going to be her magnus opus, like the book that she will write unless she's got a hell of a lot of energy. Maybe she does, to write something this grand and this big again. But this style is, I think, unique for her in the books that I've read of her. But you can see some little kind of precursors of this book. She's big into lists on a lot of the early books, like just going through, kind of like pie ingredients and, just kind of like the whole litany kind of thing. But one of the things that I thought was so remarkable about this book compared to her others, and I asked her about this in the interview that I did, is that her other books, the women are very sexually kind of strong and self-confident. And I wouldn't necessarily say aggressive, but they like sex, they have sex, and they're like, gung-ho. And this woman is so much more reticent, and I kind of felt like she didn't feel like she had a lot of sexual agency. And I think that that's kind of different than some of the other books. And Lucy kind of explained it to me that, she's like, this woman is tired. She's overworked. She's recovering from cancer. She's a housewife. She can barely make ends meet. This is kind of just like the reality of people out there today, that like, by the time you take care of all the pressing things and demands on your time, you're like, sex, what the hell? Who has time or energy for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's almost like it's this burdensome expectation you have to meet. That's part of the gig of being in a family, and because there was the previous section had that really interesting juxtaposition of when the lioness mates and it's very primal and sexual, and then it's juxtaposed with the narrator talking about sex and kind of like
What was it like interviewing her? Were there other things that you found very interesting about talking with her? Did you guys do it by phone or written?
It was email. Given the time difference, and by the time I think that I interviewed her, she had already long listed on the booker, so she was kind of busy. But doing a lot of interviews and a lot of appearances. She is fascinating and very, very opinionated. I like kind of comments within questions, and she just kind of slapped me down a couple of times, you know, like, no, that's not right. I remember that I said that, you know, sometimes there's seemingly no rhyme or reason to the progression of the narrative. And she was like, of course there's a reason. There's always a reason. I say things the only way things can be said, because, it was in response to like the capitalization. Sometimes everything's in caps, and sometimes things are in italics. But yeah, I love her. She's fantastic.
I'm tempted to ask her to come on this at the end, but I'm also scared to death. And I'm scared if she's listened to these. I'm afraid of that too.
I bet she'd love to come on.
We'll see. We'll ask.
I think may have listened to at least one, because she pinned a tweet, I think, of something that was said on one of our podcasts.
Yeah. So a little more pressure.
Yeah. Oh man, all that like stuff I was saying just to be funny, like it'll be critiqued as far as like, you're an idiot because of this. No, I was just saying that because.
No, she's very nice, but she doesn't mince words.
She doesn't suffer fools.
Exactly.
When you say Lit Hub, this is a not intentionally bad segue, but a segue to one of my favorite parts of this section on 347, where she says the fact that they did some experiment where they gave the participant a computer and told them to surf the net, but warned them that each click would cause some unseen stranger excruciating pain. Click, hair clip, TV clip. The fact that the experiment was just to see how tempted people would be by clickbait. The fact that it turned out that most people wouldn't resist a bit of clickbait, even to save their own mother's life. And they certainly didn't give a darn if total strangers were suffering every time they clicked on some dumb story. I think that's perfect. Like I assume that that's a real experiment, and I can totally see that happening, and people just being like, I don't care. I gotta know what the 10 best secrets to live to 111 are. That in here too, the reference to like the 111-year-old woman spills her secrets. I clicked on that before. I've seen that. I remember that.
It's almost like she's like read like the back pages of every American newspaper for the past 10 years. You know, ephemeral stuff is that like, who noticed that little story, you know, that was like half an inch tall on the bottom of page 13B.
Yeah, exactly. She in a way like reminds me of Rodrigo Frazan in the sense that he's so encyclopedic too, and like just stuffing things and remembering all these references, and he's more grouping. He groups a lot more of his stuff under like the authors or the works that you're familiar with. So like the sections on like Dark Side of the Moon or the Beatles or whatever, but he does have all those little anecdotes that come up, and that he remembers that because he reads everything and is like consuming culture all the time. And I feel there's some sort of sympathy between the two in that regard, and then between the two books. The other thing I want to mention about this section, so last week was a week we talked a little bit about Ulysses. This week, the thing that struck me was how this book is very much like Finnegan's Wake, in the sense that like is specifically on page 316, when she lists all the rivers for 316, 317, and into 318. There's the famous Anna Livia Pluribel section of Finnegan's Wake, which is all the rivers in Ireland, and like incorporated into this text as they're done. And it's also very like run-on sort of list-making thing. And it occurred to me that there's some affinity there too. Like I know that I keep honing in on the Joyce thing because I love Joyce, and because I knew of her from her dad's book on Joyce. But I do think that they're like comparing it to like these grand books by Joyce makes sense, because this is also a grand book, but in a very different way. But playing with that, but these lists reminded me this time of Finnegan's Wake and the fun that you can have in that book with words and with the sounds of words, and that element of play is in this as well.
Yeah.
Play followed by like gun violence.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually just at a used bookstore bought this copy of Ulysses.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And the preface is by her father in this one.
Oh yeah.
And this one actually, this one does a really neat thing where it shows you the previous editions of Ulysses. Do you know how many they just for as books people involved in book selling? So the first edition was February 1922. Shakespeare and Company in Paris. You know how many copies they did?
Wasn't it like 700?
It's pretty close. It's 1,000. And then in October of 1922 is when Egoist Press in London, they did 2,000 copies, of which 500 were detained by the New York post office authorities.
Yep. That's when the Trinity trial gets started.
Yeah, but it's neat. This one goes by and shows you like the first few decades of how much of the book was actually made. It was kind of cool.
Wild. That's wild. You know, that's funny too, because Ulysses being like a counterpoint to this, as the Ulysses being like the famous obscenity trial, and like and that it is supposed to be a filthy book, and Joyce was a filthy dude, and this, she is so restrained and will not swear, will not. There's even the line in here where she says cock, and she's like, oh, cock, I've never said that before in my life. I've never even thought that word, and it is so much more restrained. So it is, again, like the opposite of Ulysses in that sense too.
Yeah, I kept saying it. I think it says like "oh my" or "oh dear" in a few places, like in this section in particular that I was kind of honing in on.
Yeah. There's also where is it? Because she has the Djibouti comes back again, where she steps in one of the cars.
My mom used to when we were watching films as a kid, and if there was a swear word, we'd have to say "phooey" when it came. As if to let us know, like, this is bad. You shouldn't have heard that phooey. Like, oh, that was our Djibouti.
Oh my God.
I think it's so kind of refreshing and nice though in this book, because unlike a lot of things that seem to kind of be in the American literary culture right now, this is a nice mother. She's a good mother. She's not like this horrible mother, which we kind of tried. That seems to be the takeoff point to a lot of literature, of course. And then she's got a good marriage. You know, there's the next thing, but she really truly loves her husband, and he seems to truly love her. I kept waiting for and maybe I shouldn't say this because I don't want to give away the book, but I kept waiting like, oh, he's going to disappoint her somehow.
Yeah. And
he really doesn't. They're solid through and through the whole way. So it's nice.
Yeah, I really responded to that too, because I thought like it is so refreshing that it's not like this terrible marriage or this like unhappiness based on that. It allows it to be more about these bigger issues because that's not on the table. But it's easier to imagine this going in a different direction than it is to go in the direction that it's going in. Especially this is a very out of nowhere anecdote, but I feel like it might be appropriate here. So after the World Series last night, I got sucked into watching local news, which was bizarre for all sorts of reasons. Like the craziest shit I've ever seen was our local news last night. But right after that, it joined in progress an episode of Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil is evil. Dr. Phil is a monster. He is the anti-mom. I fuck Dr. Phil. So they had a woman on there and her mom, and they're all about how her 11-year-old son had anger issues. Like he'd get very angry and scream and throw things in his room. He's angry. And Dr. Phil and these two guys from the state of Kentucky who threatened to take away her kid on national TV. They're like, we're going to have to report you and take him away because you're a terrible mother. You've done a bad job raising him. It's all your fault. Like it's your mom's fault, grandma's fault for not being there to make this kid better. You guys have ruined this kid and you need to be better as a mom. And it's just like, fuck you, Dr. Phil. And then they interviewed the kid and the kid was like, they're like, why do you get angry? He's like, well, I get angry when kids say stuff to me at school. And they're like, what do they say? And they're like, oh, how they want to fuck my mom. And it's like, oh my God, what is happening here? And then it flashes back to like the screen and Dr. Phil's yelling at this poor woman. And it reminded me of this book in so many ways. This woman seemed like she's just trying to make it through life. And Dr. Phil and these two other guys are just like harassing her. So I've decided I have a new campaign to end Dr. Phil. I want Dr. Phil canceled permanently forever. I hate him. He is the opposite of my pro-mom stance.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. I've got a new anger issue.
Got a reason to live another year, huh?
Yep, one more year. You gotta have something. But yeah, the part about her kids in here that I really love too is on 314. She's like, but luckily none of our kids want to fish. the fact that they just want to be obsessively tidy or rebelliously untidy, or stare at the internet all day, or start yelling and screaming and then get all gloomy all of a sudden, or deposit a million little plastic Japanese warrior figures all over the floor for me to step on. The fact that I think the cops should use those little warriors to stop car chases, chafing. I love all the parts about the kids in particular in here.
This section permeated my life, and there was obviously listing all the rivers, talk about how much the Ohio is polluted, and then just the water, and like the fact that the water is now undrinkable and all the chemical. And it's like I drank some tap water last night, and I just like all I smelled was like chlorine and I was like freaking me out about drinking a glass. This section made me freak out about drinking a glass of water. Like I gotta buy one of those $200 Berkey thingies now and get the I can't drink. I don't trust our water. We ruined it. We killed all the Indians. Their water was fine. Oh no, like
yeah, there's that line about like they were there for thousands of years and it only took Europeans like a couple hundred to make a mess out of everything. And that part about Flint where she's like, well, Flint they get bottled water, but they can't shower with bottled water and they still have to pay a water bill. And that doesn't seem to make any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I grew up north of Flint, so I'm probably had terrible water. And we just drank out of like the tap and out of hoses and all sorts of stuff where I grew up. Filled with pollution. Anyways, yeah, this book is super fun, and there's so many good parts to like that you could just pick out and play with. Like, I love the alphabet part in this section too, which is like, why is the alphabet in that order? Like, it's just something that everyone just kind of agreed on. Like, how do we get everyone to agree that alphabet goes in this order? Which I never really thought about, but yeah, it is. You know, I'm sure there's some history of how the alphabet came to be, but it still seems like it'd just be like it was chosen this way.
Have you guys? I kind of see in some ways some similarities between this book and last year's Booker winner, Milkman. And especially as it relates, not necessarily the form or what she's doing narratively, but with this element of this kind of predation with the creepy handyman in this book that kind of comes to the house and she can't really get rid of him and she doesn't want to be rude to him and she doesn't really want him around. And it gets a little more sinister as it goes on, but I thought that Anna Burns did such a good job with that in Milkman too, that there's this kind of like weird sexual lurking that happens that you can't really tell like the police about because like nothing overt is happening. There's really nothing that you can pinpoint and say, aha, he did that, so get a restraining order for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just all this very subtle things, but it so creeps you out.
Yeah, that's interesting. Related to that too, like all the talk about all the guns and everything being like the open carry people, it creates that sort of background for me of like the danger in just going outside can be dangerous, and that there is some sort of sinister activity happening all around, so you have to be cautious. But yeah, that's interesting. I have it, but I haven't read it yet.
At the gift shop with the erection in her back.
Oh yeah,
pressed to get right, like just horrifying.
Yeah,
but just. Yeah. Commonplace in the open and the way that it was done. Like, yeah, I mean, there's another example of just
and how do you
predatory.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Well, again, yeah, because she's like the dad wanted to go find him, and like I don't know what he looked like. I didn't see him, so like it's everybody. It could be everybody. It could be anybody. Like it's there.
Yeah.
And nothing you can do about it.
Right.
You can't even drink clean water.
Yeah.
Or save the Indians.
Everything's broken.
Yeah.
Except pies.
Except for pies.
We live for pie.
Live for pie. Very, very true. Oh man. No, is there anything else that you guys that you wanted to bring up or that you've noticed?
Oh, I think there was a huge opportunity that I wanted there to be in this section so bad with talking about Pluto. And then McDonald's. I had this weird experience when I briefly lived in Toledo, Ohio, having to drive south. There's Wampakoneta, Ohio, which is where Neil Armstrong was born.
Yeah.
And they have a little like moon museum. And then the exit right there, I had to use the restroom once, and there's a McDonald's there that is moon themed. Everything is, and they take a bunch of pride that we're the only franchise McDonald's that is allowed to change our interior to be thematic, because we're in Wampakoneta, Ohio. There's just like this weird, like, where am I right now? This is bizarre. And it's just all like moon trinkets. Like it's like an Area 51 museum, but it's a McDonald's at the same time. It's so bizarre. And of course, only in Ohio.
Yeah.
It was like, so.
I love I love like when she makes fun of Ohio and is like, man, I'll get deported from Ohio if people find out. Ohio is like maybe the worst state. But then she references that all con men are from Indiana. And I remember living in the Midwest, there's always like a debate between which state was worse, Indiana or Ohio. I think I solidly on the Ohio state side of things, but
Ohio takes forever to drive through to get to the east to the west border. It's ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah. Even north to south, it feels like it just takes ages too long.
Wait, you're in Texas complaining it takes too long to drive across the state?
Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and so we would like when we went on our car trips as kids, like Grand Canyon or whatever, we'd always have to go through Ohio, and it was. I have to say, I don't really drive through Texas very much. I just get on Southwest. We call it the Greyhound in the air here because it's like. There's like flights to Austin or Waco or Midland like every half hour. So
wow, yeah,
I don't know too much here.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That would be rough. There's when you're talking about the moon thing, reminded me of that video I think I sent you. I had not seen before of Buzz Aldrin punching out a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. There's like this great video. It's maybe the best person punching another person video I've seen ever, where Buzz Aldrin's, older, he's like old, and this guy's coming up to him, he's like, swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon. You're a liar, you're a fraud, you never went to the moon, you're a liar. And he just like punches him. He's like this 70-year-old man just like decks this conspiracy theorist. It's wonderful. It's my day. Now if Buzz Aldrin could punch Dr. Phil, that would be even better.
And where's Jerry Springer these days?
Where's what's that?
Jerry Springer.
Oh yeah, I have no idea.
He just disappeared. He had like really scintillating shows as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Oddly enough, he's passed on that mantle to the bodyguard Steve, the guy that used to break up all the fights.
Really?
Yeah, he's the one that's doing the talk show now. Like that's how weird our world's gotten. Yeah, it's like the Steve show.
But not Harvey. There's like the bodyguard has a show.
The bodyguard, the bald bodyguard guy. Why would you want him talking? He's just a goon. He's the one that does the show now. Like, all right, whatever.
And does someone else break up the fights?
I don't know. Maybe like
double duty.
Cuts down on costs. I don't know. Yeah, that's how bizarre things are. Yeah.
Oh my God, we live in the weirdest world. We absolutely do. Do you have a favorite line from this section, Brian?
Yeah, this one again. This book keeps like connecting to my times back in Ohio. I can't. It's unshakable. It's amazing how good this is. Page 338 in the North American version. The fact that Bowling Green University now has a department of popular culture where you can do a PhD on cartoons and comic strips and YouTube channels. The fact that maybe Stacy should go there someday and study morning routine girl videos. Dear me, let's hope not. I like that because I was working with someone who she was taking an elective, and it was in part of this pop culture department when she was going to school at Bowling Green University.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, I'm kind of interested in like, what was your curriculum? I like to see the books and stuff. And it was like, the curriculum was like Family Guy season 3, like Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs are one of those Chuck Klosterman books. Where he's like, these are the greatest essays ever. It's about Saved by the Bell. Or you're just like, wait, this is a course you get to take? This is incredible. What? Oh my, I went to school at the wrong time. I had to read like Chaucer and crap. This is like, wow. So, like, I just read this. I just had to like put it down and just laugh for about a minute. Like, man, Lucy's incredible. I love this book.
I think my favorite line from this is on 309. The fact that I think there's maybe too much emphasis on facts these days, or maybe there are just too many facts. in a book that's the fact that is the main line. It's beautiful.
I wonder, do you think that she like kept notes in preparation for this book? And can you imagine like what that file cabinet must look like?
Oh dear.
Yeah, that would be wild. I can envision like the way that I've been envisioning this book as I read it is more of like a diagram, like of like the different concerns that are there. And like they sort of like circle back around or circle to. And I could see that there's probably I could imagine that there's like some great underlying structure that one could like tease out. But in my mind, it feels very visual. Like rather than like some other people I know, like I can envision different books that are like noted and you have plot points that's different areas and you have like all these kind of notes to work together into like that sort of thing. And I feel like this is more expansive and more almost three-dimensional in like the way that it's dealing with all these different ideas that are going to keep coming back.
Yeah.
The buzz beads, the guns.
I can't know whether it was in this section, but is the reveal about why the book is called Ducks Newburyport, is it in this section? Okay, it might be in the next section then.
Okay, yeah, because it's been referenced twice, I think, where it says Ducks Newburyport, but there's no explanation for that at all. I wondered, I was going to ask about that. I thought maybe I'm just dumb and I don't know what it is, just like with everything else. But yeah, so there is something that will be revealed.
There's a reason, but it's not like a huge revelation. It's like, oh, that's where the title comes from. But it'll be pretty clear to you when you see that part of it.
Okay, cool.
It has to do with mommy.
With what?
Mommy, her mother.
Oh, good.
You know, she's very. That's one of, I think, obviously her fixations is her mother and her relationship with her mother, and so yeah, that's where the title comes from.
This one, like, there's a section here too that was like a little bit heartbreaking, where she's like, her dad asked if she was afraid of him, and she's like, of course I am, like, and thinking that that's what he wanted to say, and it like sort of breaks his heart. And she's like, I didn't realize until later after he was dead that he was probably the nicest man that I ever knew, and like I told him that I was afraid of him at this one point, and like clearly hurt his feelings. But that's her relationship to her parents is also very touching, and like the way that's not like it's complicated, obviously, like the way that she interacted with them and the way that they treated her is complicated. It's not purely good or purely whatever, but it's very realistic in that sense, and not like what you expect either, where it's like, oh, my parents ruined my life, and that kind of trope that's been part of American fiction for a long time is not here. It's something different. Like the respect that she has for like the complexities of being a parent and being a mom in particular is fucking wonderful. She should go on Dr. Phil and punch Dr. Phil.
Or Jerry Springer's bodyguard show.
Yeah. If I don't want her to punch Jerry Springer's bodyguard, because I think he could take her.
I don't know.
Dr. Phil's like got little squinty pig eyes and it's fat. Like he's totally
By the way, happy Halloween, and a pack of Marlboros is an awesome costume for a little kid. I have to say. which is in this section where
I wondered if there's a line, I think I had it marked too, where it's like, it's right here. The fact that you could probably be arrested for dressing your kid as a pack of cigarettes these days. And I thought, I wonder if you could. I bet you'd get reported.
Try it on your son.
Yeah, totally. You know what I want in my life? A little more child protective services. I just want them on speed dial to my phone.
Aiden, you want to be Newports or do you want to be non-filters?
Stay away from the menthol.
Yeah.
I'll dress them up as a big boot. Just a big. Oh shit. Oh, anyways. I don't have anything else to add to this today. Does anyone else?
No,
I don't have I'm not touching my computer because of all the problems that we had. So I'm not sure how far we're going for next week, but it's probably up to like page 420 or so of the list. I'll have it on the show notes. But remind us once again where everyone should go to order books from you, Lori.
InterabangBooks.com.
I have a link to that in the show notes as well. But yes, go and support Interabang Books. I hope you get everything put together quickly, cleanly, efficiently, and are up and running as soon as possible.
Disaster-free is what we're striving for.
And then that the insurance company does right by you.
Thank you.
That feels like the most dangerous part of it.
Yeah.
But anyways, and Brian, where can people find you, and how should they, you know what they should do is buy Joytime Killbox from Interabang.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm down for that.
Awesome. Buy a 2 for Ducks Newburyport and Joytime Killbox, all through Interabang Books.
And some open letter books too. We could do that.
Well, yeah, that too, I suppose. Yeah, that would work. Go buy all of our books too. Anyways, yeah, what you should buy too, in addition to that, is The Dreamed Part, which comes out officially in November and will be one of the 2-month review books in the future and next year. So yeah,
that's exciting.
A big follow-up to the first season. So anyway, till next week, I'm Chad. You can find me at Chad W Post and everywhere, and Open Letter, you know where it is. So hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.